Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 62 of the FusionCast. This week we are joined by Greg Deffenbaugh. Greg has been on before, so he's kind of a repeat offender on the podcast. We're happy to have him back. And the topic for today is a blog, actually, that Greg published today, and I'll drop a link on here somewhere so you can check it out. It's a really good, and I kind of saw it in pre-production and gave a little minor editorial input, but it's a really good blog, and it's a concept that I really like. And I want us to kind of launch into a discussion about it. Then you should go read it. I think it's a really good story as we start connecting into watsonx. So the overarching theme, if you look at watsonx and their messaging, a big part of their value proposition is this idea of trusted AI, right? So AI that can be used in your enterprise safely. It's curated, it's explainable, it's auditable, it has full provenance, all that. So Greg was thinking about that, and I'll let you tell the story, Greg, because you can tell it better than I can, but thinking about how does IBM storage accelerate or expand that trusted AI platform story. So Greg, take us through kind of the thought process behind the blog.
Sure. So, if we look at from a watsonx perspective, there's a kind of a couple of layers, right? The first is what they call the trusted AI platform, and that's the formal watsonx components. watsonx.ai, watsonx.data, and watsonx.governance that they put together, and each one of them has different pieces, but they're tightly bound together to deliver that trusted AI platform, right? And then underneath that, kind of based on the Cloud Pak for Data product, is what they call a trusted data platform, which really provides, I'll say, the plumbing and the execution of rule sets and stuff, so that you're presenting a controlled exposure of data up to the upper levels of watsonx. But what was kind of missing in those two stories is what I named the trusted storage platform, which is, hey, these AI models, they need mass amounts of data, they need it fast, they need it to be resilient, they need it to scale. And everybody keeps saying, watsonx and AI are going to be the next, enterprise class infrastructure, right? People are going to run their businesses on it. How do we build a storage infrastructure to deliver on those requirements? And started looking, and there's kind of three key pieces within the IBM storage portfolio, IBM Fusion, IBM Storage Scale, and IBM Storage Ceph, that kind of fits really well into this story of, hey, we're going to take the pieces of the infrastructure and the pieces of the portfolio, put them together so that customers can create a built-for-use platform to deliver whatever it is AI workloads they're trying to deliver to the business.
Unmute, Randy.
Brilliant. What Speaking of microphones, of course I forgot what I said. Totally forgot what I was going to say. No, I was going to say, Pete, you've been involved in a lot of preparation for upcoming events. In fact, our last podcast, which is probably going to drop at the same time as this one because I got a little behind on editing, is about events, right? So one of the messages, or one of the major messages for all these events, is obviously how we work with watsonx and the value we add to watsonx. So this feels like it fits right in or plugs right into that messaging framework.
Heck yeah. And only in a few weeks, I think we're going to be at GTC, the NVIDIA conference in San Jose, and Fusion is going to be featured, and the data, the watsonx.data platform and everything that Greg just talked about, Fusion together with Ceph and with Scale, like bringing the best of all of those technologies together. I mean, this is an exciting time to be, particularly in IBM storage, I think, because we always kept saying, like, we're the world's best kept secret in terms of the technology we have. And we finally are starting to figure it out, how to bring it all to market and bring it to bear. So yeah, GTC is going to be an exciting event. And, you know this, Randy, that the story extends, to bringing in GPUs, into the overall equation. So, to the point of a trusted platform, you can trust, that we put it together, obviously with a lot of forethought, with a lot of, retrospect on what we've experienced in this market, but built that into, the offering, that's able to solve a lot of these problems.
Yeah. And so Greg, talk a little bit about the specifics for each. So whether it's HCI or Ceph or kind of the various components of the portfolio and how they plug into this overall trusted storage for watsonx story.
Sure. So I'll start with Fusion. So Fusion is a purpose-built software-defined storage platform for running OpenShift applications on, right? And it's tightly bound to it. I mean, it's the only place it runs, right? It is within the OpenShift environment, and it provides file block and object storage. So I would say, in a watsonx environment, it's the local operations. You've got a DB2 database that's tracking information. You can write it into block storage, right? If you need local file stores for logs and that kind of stuff, it's all there. So that gets OpenShift up and running, and it's been the standard for OpenShift pretty much, across all OpenShift workloads at this point. So Scale provides, a massive performance, massive scalable file store within the environment. And so when you start looking at things like large language models and say, hey, I need to run petabytes worth of data through this thing as fast as I can swallow it, that's where Scale fits into the game. Scale also has what they call an active file manager node. Essentially, it's a global cache node. And what we see is a lot of customers have data spread all over their organization. It can be remote sites, it can be up in the cloud, and need to bring it into the analysis, but they don't want to do an ETL. They're not really looking at copying of petabytes of the data on-prem. They just like to leave it in place and grab it. And that's where the AFM provides this global high-performance cache that essentially loads on demand, and it's shared between multiple processors and even multiple OpenShift environments if you wanted to deliver that, I'll say, local access speed without having to migrate all your data locally. And then Ceph provides, and Ceph is a multi-purpose platform, but in this case, we're using it as object store for creating a data lakehouse. So it's a place with Cloud Pak for data and watsonx.data can look at how do I curate and manage and store data from multiple sources. So I can bring in structured data from from databases. I can bring in files. I can bring objects. I can bring videos. Whatever it is that I need to put in here, and I can catalog it within that Ceph environment. And I think Fusion in itself is kind of standalone. The Ceph and Scale stuff gets very interesting because there's some overlap within the environments, and I think this is actually part of the beauty of the platform, though the guys on our side that are trying to solve the problems may not be, is that there are multiple ways to skin the cat, right? And so there are times where Scale might be a better fit for a particular workload than Ceph, and we can work with the watsonx folk to figure out what's the right fit of the different pieces of technology for a particular use case.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, Greg, go ahead.
As I said, so we're not trying to use, pound a square peg in a round hole and fit it into a single storage platform, right? We can pick the best features out of each of the platforms and apply them to different problems.
Yeah, that's a really, really good point. And we've been doing that a lot lately. We've done a lot of work with the watsonx team on sizing and configuration best practices, and that's rolling out to the field. And we're getting, really good traction with that. And I will say also, on your earlier comment about AFM and kind of the performance capabilities or the boost that you get from using IBM Storage Scale, I had a call yesterday. I got a little sneak peek at some demo scenarios that we're going to be rolling out. I think they're actually going to be available in other venues prior to that, but demonstrating this and actually showing with the next generation Presto DB 2.0 and the accelerator option with Scale, and the results are just kind of bonkers. So it's very real. I can tell you it's very real. We talk about it, we throw around some kind of heady numbers, but I saw it. I actually saw it run yesterday with my very own eyes. So it's pretty cool stuff.
Yeah, in fact, we're saying what, Randy, is the approved comment, 90x performance boost.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, that's obviously kind of a bit of an edge case, but even conservatively, it's double digit X. So it's significant, like multiplicative factors of performance improvement, not just as a result of using AFM, but even just using the next generation of watsonx.ai in conjunction with the all-in integrated converged platform of HCI. So, the story of watsonx plus Fusion just keeps strengthening, right? We're evolving the solution to better match their requirements. Obviously, they're evolving their solution. They're announcing a new release of AI at the end of this month, a new release of AI, actually both AI and Gov, to be generally available in March. So we're kind of almost in lockstep on our releases, almost exactly, which is pretty great. So, so Greg, I guess last point or last thing I wanted to kind of pick your brain on is, you talk to customers a lot, obviously. What are you hearing from them in terms of their both concerns and sort of their optimistic views of watsonx specifically, but I guess just AI in the enterprise more broadly?
I think it's kind of an interesting, because it really depends on who you're talking to within an account, right? If we're talking to the data scientists and the people who are actually in the business that are looking at this and saying, hey, I want to bring an HR bot in, or I'm wanting to put intelligence in my network and this kind of stuff, right? They're looking at this and their eyes are watering and they're salivating on, and how can I get at this thing? I'm hearing all of these great stories. I want to do this. If you talk to the infrastructure people, they're looking at this like the light at the end of the tunnel is an oncoming train. They're trying to figure out how do I manage this thing? What am I doing? I don't, I get big data, I get fast data, but this sounds like a whole nother level of big fast data. And how do I build out the infrastructures for it? And oh, by the way, I'm in a limited budget. Right?
Yeah, it's also big, fast, potentially dangerous data, which is the whole trusted AI element, right?
Right. Well, it's funny because if you talk to the people that we traditionally talk to about storage, they really care about the trusted data from a perspective of is this going to cause bias or this kind of thing. They're worrying about, hey, if these guys go out there and go out and buy a rack of servers full of GPUs, how do I have an infrastructure that can feed that? Because they're going to spend a lot of money buying those GPUs, and they're not going to be happy if they're spending a lot of time in idle state waiting for data to come out of the storage layer. So I think it's when we start looking at this stuff and we look at the potential for it, something like kind of the picture with a centralized, large, very fast, very scalable storage infrastructure that can be modified and enhanced and expanded to meet whatever is coming at them. It gives the people that are running that storage stack a lot of confidence that they're not going to be called into a meeting because somebody looked at a dashboard and saw the GPUs are sitting at 80% idle because they're starved for data and that kind of thing.
Yeah, and that raises an interesting point that kind of came up in our my demo discussion yesterday with the team is one of the interesting use cases for Fusion, using Fusion with watsonx, is the ability to run a fully isolated LLM, including RAG extensions and all the, bells and whistles of generative AI and adaptive generative AI on-prem, right? Entirely on-prem with no need to connect outside the firewall. That's hugely important for government entities, for financial services organizations, healthcare and life sciences. That's something that's massively valuable to them and something that is otherwise very, very difficult to do. So I think we're going to see this unlocking a lot of opportunities for us, I think, in the coming, months and years. So really, really cool stuff. Pete, parting thoughts?
No, this is all great stuff. It's a big focus area for us, and it's a top of mind conversation for a lot of our clients. So very timely.
And come see us at GTC. If you're at GTC, check it out. There's going to be a really cool demo of like a car insurance application that does RAG and does local LLM, all the stuff we're talking about. They can demonstrate it to you. It's pretty cool. And if you're going to be at Think in May, we will have an HCI system actually on the floor. So you can come and, look at it and touch it and see the blinking lights. Get excited. So Greg, good stuff. Thank you. Great blog. Again, I will post somewhere here a link again to the blog. I'd encourage everybody to read it. It's really good. Share it with your customers. It published just today. Today is the 20th of February, so hot off the presses. Thanks again, Greg, for joining us. Pete, thanks again.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everyone, for watching. We'll be back again next week. Pete is actually going to be off the grid next week, I believe, so we may have a guest second chair. We're going to be talking about Cloud Pak testing and certification, so don't miss that one either. So again, thanks, everyone. We'll talk to you again next week.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.